Carburetor tuning feels messy and difficult and complicated and almost impossible sometimes. If you're a beginner and you're not quite sure where to begin, check this video out. I'm going to walk through it all step by step, help you, give you a little bit of guidance on what direction to go, and hopefully give you some tips to get your carburetor tuned to your application. Let's go. It really doesn't matter what brand of carburetor you're working on, whether it's an Edelbrock, whether you've chosen to work with a Holley. All of these things really are about the same. So there's a couple that are model specific, and we'll talk about that as we go through. But what I try not to do is don't let it get frustrating. I know it can be when you're working with something new and you're not quite used to, but take your time, take it easy, and you'll work your way through it. Very first thing that you need to start working on when you're installing a new carburetor on an engine, it has nothing to do with the carburetor, 100% to do with the ignition. If you've watched this channel at all, or if you haven't, this is something I say very, very frequently. Timing cures a lot of the problems that you have with a engine and carburetor tuning. Why is that? What makes timing so special? Timing, especially today with today's fuels being a little bit different, not the way they were in 1971 when this truck was made, when back then we had leaded fuel. Today, there's ethanol additives. It needs a little bit more time to burn. You need to add a little bit more timing into the engine. This truck is rated, I think we're at 8 degrees before top dead center from the factory. It's not enough. It's not near enough. I'm down here near sea level, just a couple hundred foot above sea level. I start everything at 12 to 14 and tune up from there. Right now, the GMC truck is at 16 degrees before top dead center. Don't have to get really expensive or really crazy with your timing light. This one was a little bit on the high side, but it has more things that I want in it. Ability to look at RPM at the same time. Some of them don't do that. You can buy some really, really cheap stuff out there on the market, or some really good ones. I'll leave some links to some of my favorites down below, but timing is the best place to start. Making sure the ignition system's in good shape, that it's not just operating, that you've got, okay, well, I changed the plugs and the wires and the cap and the rotor, should be fine. Yeah, kinda, but timing is a big part of it. So making sure all of those things and pieces and parts work together is important, but timing is the big one. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail in this video about how to on each one of these. If you want to see any of those videos, I'll leave it in the description down below, a playlist of tuning for both Holley and Edelbrock style carburetors. It should help you out quite a bit. Next biggest one really is fuel system setup. Again, it's not directly tuning a carburetor, but boy, if you do not get the fuel system set up correctly, you're going to fight it the entire time. Again, I've got several videos on this one, but it doesn't matter what type of system you're running, whether it's a mechanical pump, whether you're running pump and tank, doesn't matter. One of the really key pieces to this whole equation, and I get arguments about this all the time, but if you think about it, a fuel pressure regulator is the best thing you can do for that system. Why is that? You're using a factory, Fomoco, Delco, whatever it is, pump, and it says, well, the manufacturer says it's rated at 6 PSI. I don't need a pressure regulator. So why do I suggest running a pressure regulator on everything? Very, very simple. There's not a lot of tuning points within a carbureted system, meaning if you're struggling with a rich condition, a lean condition, and you're not quite sure of how much flow is getting to the carburetor, even with needle and seats you think set correctly, and float level set correctly, and fuel level set correctly, being able to control how much flow that the system needs is very, very critical, especially when you can be in control over it, not be beholden to whatever the system is putting out. This is the fuel pressure regulator that I worked with DeechWorks for them to make what I wanted as far as the features, style, price, all the things that I wanted out of it. This was the regulator they came up with. I'll leave that link down in the description. I did a full-length video on this regulator when it came out. I think you'll dig it. My system is set up a little bit differently. I like to look at pressure in a couple of different places, especially as we're doing these videos and I'm trying to show you, where things are operating, what's going on. But having just a good pressure regulator in the right spot in the fuel system, it's definitely one of those things that really, it's not a lot of money and it puts you in control of what's going on. Fuel pressure regulator, Absolutely one of my favorite things to add to a fuel system. Gauges are another one. If you can't see what's going on in the engine, all of the decisions you make are flying blind. So getting a good set of gauges is a big part of this system. At a bare minimum, a pressure gauge like we just showed under hood, tachometer, those are big pieces to the puzzle. The only other one that I would absolutely suggest if you're doing a lot of carburetor tuning is get a good vacuum gauge so you can understand what the engine is doing as far as vacuum. Is if you watch that vacuum gauge close enough or monitor it, it'll tell you when those events are occurring, whether it's power valve opening, whether it's step-up springs, whether it's the AVS coming in. You'll be able to see those and feel when that is occurring without having to run something special. Now, an AFR is one of those things where you do not have to have this, but if you want to step up your game, if you want the cheat code to tuning, an AFR will give you all of those answers right there on whatever device you're working at. Now, mine's tethered to my phone. This is a fast setup. It is very expensive. It's also quite a few years old, but this is the one that I choose because I can run it in a single O2 or in a dual O2 like I'm going to run on the Chevelle. But an AFR is going to answer a lot of questions for you as you're going through the tuning process. Definitely not something that you have to have. Yes, they're very expensive. Yes, they're a little complicated at times when you're not quite sure of what's going on or maybe the hookup, but realistically, if you want to take your tuning game to the next level, even if you're not a beginner, an AFR is a really great place to start. One thing I love about the Edelbrock carburetors is the ability to buy an actual tuning kit specifically for the model that you're working on and be able to give you all the tuning pieces right in one kit. This happens to be a 1905 carburetor. This is the calibration kit that comes with it, at least the tuning chart in it. There is nothing better on the market for a street carburetor than an Edelbrock carburetor, period, hands down. You cannot argue with me. I will fight you all day long with it because when you look at the tools that are available, having a tuning chart that tells you exactly what to do, what steps to take, what rods and jets to replace, what steps to take as far as lean or rich conditions, whatever you're experiencing, no one else gives you this. It's, again, a little bit of a cheat code in how to tune a carburetor. Absolutely, when you have a new carburetor, Edelbrock, Holley, doesn't matter what brand you're going with, getting tools to work through the tuning process to adjust fueling, timing of when fueling comes in, the amount of fuel that comes in, whether it's with an accelerator pump change, whether it's a nozzle change to change up the timing of how quickly the fuel comes in, all of those things are critical pieces when you're going through the tuning process. That calibration chart has saved me more times than often, not only, like I said, just for regular carburetor tuning, but a great example, I live here down by sea level. I was just up in Santa Fe, New Mexico for a couple of weeks. Well, that's at 7,000 feet up there. When you go from sea level and a carburetor that's tuned for sea level up to that elevation, you have to make changes if you're in a carbureted vehicle to make sure that the engine is not pig rich when you get up there. It changes a lot of things, and having the ability or understanding that you need to make those tuning changes, right back to the tuning chart, it'll tell you exactly what you need to do. One of the biggest problems I see and mistakes that people make is, I hear it and see it and read it all the time, is, well, I put on X, Y, or Z carburetor and it was great right out of the box. No such thing. Carburetors have no idea what is going on right out of the box. It has no idea what the engine needs, what the demands are, what the timing it needs to be set out for that engine to run right, the elevation that you're at. All those things make a huge difference. Engine vacuum, what you're demanding out of it, how you're driving the vehicle. All those things are important. And right out of the box doesn't do anything. They are a generic calibration. They are there to get the carburetor running, driving, so you can start working through the process to tune it for what you're working on. Please don't ever think that a carburetor is good right out of the box. If you put it on and bolted it on and it ran, it doesn't mean it's tuned. It means it's ready for you to start tuning. That is not tuning. That is just being lazy and ignoring what the carburetor and the engine are asking for. Doesn't matter what flavor carburetor you're working on, you have to tune it. There is nothing that's perfect. right out of the box. Doesn't matter what it is. Always, always, always be prepared to work through the process and make sure that carburetor is dialed in for what you're working on. Most of the tuning problems you see folks having online or complaining about, it has nothing to do with the carburetor. It has everything to do with the fact that they just bolted it on, monkeyed around with idle mixture screws and maybe idle speed, and that was it. That is not a tuned carburetor. That is just a carburetor that is initially adjusted. You've got to tune them. So ignore everybody that's out there saying, oh man, XYZ is junk, I couldn't get it to work. Well, it's because you didn't tune it. Here's a big, big trap that people fall into. And I get it, it's easy to do. But if you put too big of a carburetor on something, I don't care what you do to tune it, you're not going to make it happen. The GMC is a great example of this. Right now, it has got a 650 CFM manual choke carburetor on it, and it's good if I want to drive it a little bit more aggressively. But I will tell you where that engine runs the best, and that is with a 500 CFM carburetor on it. This is a 1404 Edelbrock carburetor, and if I was going to go on power tour this year, I would swap that 650 out for the 500 all day long, because that's what I would use on those really long driving trips where I'm just cruising. I get a ton of emails from folks and comments on videos and in the Facebook group that we're in. Somebody has got a 350 cubic inch or 400, 454, doesn't matter what it is, and it's very easy to put on the wrong size carburetor. Wrong size and wrong type. I covered that in a past video on how to get the proper CFM. It's a good starting point for it. There's a little bit of other things that need to occur along with it, but the math works out just fine. And if you use that, you'll almost always get the right CFM carburetor for what you're using the engine for. Now, this is a 350 cubic inch blueprint engine. Did a cam swap in it, and it makes a little over 350 horsepower right now. Very, very fun, very, very stout, but it makes it at an RPM where I can cruise it, drive it, have fun with it, and not have to, worry about running it at 6,500. All in, most of the power is done by 5,500. And because of that, I don't need a 650 to go on there. 500 works really, really well. But you'll get folks arguing with you all day long on the internet saying, that ain't enough, man. It had a 750 CFM Quadrajet on it from the factory. Well, Quadrajet's not made the same way as a universal aftermarket carburetor is. Look at the primary bores on a Q-Jet. They're not that big. Why? Because when they operate in the primaries most of the time, you're not going to need a lot of fuel. The other mistake that I see people make over and over and over again is choosing the wrong type of carburetor for the application. That AVS2, the Performer Series carburetor, the Thunder Series Edelbrock carburetor, those are all really good for street driving. Little bit of performance, mostly that cruise, fun, drive around on. Apparently it's just cool to say you've got a double bumper on there, and so that's what most folks do, is immediately go, well, I'll put a 650 double bumper on there, that'll be fine. Well, it is, but they fuel differently than a street type carburetor, and you've got to be willing to put up with it. If it doesn't get really good fuel economy, if it's pig rich all the time, if you are fouling plugs, if you've got fuel in the oil, those are things that you can correct a little bit with tuning, but it's also a little bit to do with the type of carburetor you chose. One very, very important thing to keep in mind, initial carburetor setup, idle mixture screws, idle speed, fast idle, choke settings, step-up springs for the vacuum of the engine, or power valve, whatever it is you're working on, that is not tuning. Those are initial setups, and that has nothing to do with tuning the carburetor. That's your starting foundation for it, but it's not tuning. Keeping the heat away from the carburetor is a big, big part of it. Now, I use a wood laminate spacer on here. That's my favorite type, but certainly protecting the carburetor from heat is a big part of that process. This one's a polymer one by Polymer Racing Products, or they're typically called also a phenolic type spacer. This one was a little bit different than a phenolic, but you get the idea. You're trying to block the heat from the engine to the carburetor. It's a big part of the process. Heat soak for sure sucks, and if you're experiencing it, well, you can't really tune very well because the carburetor is just not operating the way it's supposed to. So Take care of those issues, and yeah, your tuning process will go so much easier. I know those really cheap pieces of crap that you see online, eBay, Amazon, whatever, the knockoffs of the Holly, the Edelbrock, whatever it is. Please don't buy those. Save yourself the time. Save yourself the money, because in the long term, the aggravation of trying to use these isn't really worth it. Done a ton of videos on these, how they're not very good from the factory, how they're horribly set up, and also the fact that they're not very tunable. And we ran them on engines to check to make sure how they ran, and pretty much all of them were crap. Save yourself the heartache. Don't buy the knockoff crap. If you're not going to use an AFR, one of the best tuning tools there is just the way we did in the old school days, and that's learn how to read a spark plug. Unfortunately, you can't read a lot on the rich or lean condition on a carburetor by just looking at the tip. You can look at timing, you can look at heat range, but if you want to look at the actual air-fuel ratio, you've got to cut open the plug and look at the ring, and that'll tell you exactly what that plug is doing. So learn how to read plugs properly. It is a huge benefit to you during the tuning process. Today's ethanol fuel, well, it's a pain. It sucks. The worst part about it is what it does long term. Now, I use the Driven Carb Defender, but there's probably other good additives on the marketplace. I'm sure the Lucas product works fairly well, but this is what I tend to use. They're local to me. I know the person that did this, Lake Speed Jr. He was the one that formulated it. Works really well, but I would highly suggest if you're forced to run an E10 or greater, E10, E15, E85 is this whole other animal. The whole system changes at that point. But if you have to run ethanol added fuel, and especially if you're going to store it a long time, using a fuel additive is a really good idea. Last but not least is just something that we call backwards planning. Figure out what you want the vehicle to run. This is a 1971 GMC truck, and I just wanted a cruiser. I wanted to have a good amount of torque. I wanted to have a little bit of ability to RPM if I wanted to, but really the torque and the drivability was the biggest two factors with this, and that's what I built. It's a Blueprint crate engine, small block 350. I think it was 340 was the rated horsepower. We've bumped that up a little bit higher to around 350. 700 R4, good gears in the back, runs, cruises, drives down the road amazingly. But choosing the right combination is a big part of it. You're not going to have a stock 350 and put a Performer RPM intake manifold and a 750 double pumper on a stock 350 and get it to run better. Matter of fact, it's probably going to run worse. So make sure as you're choosing things for your project, just try to match them up. If you have questions, call the manufacturer, call Edelbrock, call Holly, whoever you're working with to try to get cam profiles, intake manifold, carburetor for what you're working on. If you're stuck with it, ask questions. You'll get a better result when you match things up a little bit better. Those are just a few thoughts and ideas on the tuning process. Really, it's not that complicated. Don't get overwhelmed. If you're having a problem, think of all the easiest solutions first, because primarily there'll probably be something in that that'll cure that, whether it's a bog, a hesitation, but all these things are really predicated on the fact that you're going to get it all set up right correctly. You've got enough timing in it, the fuel system set correctly. You went through the initial tuning process. You worked through and are starting to actually tune the thing. You're not just driving it right out of the box and expecting it to magically fit what you're working on. You got to tune it for the application that you're driving in. So don't get overwhelmed. Don't struggle with it too much. Just start easy, start simple, ask questions. Generally you're going to get a lot of different answers. If you ask one simple question, you may get 3 different directions, but hey, think through it. If you have questions, leave them down below. Always happy to help on tuning. For sure, it's one of the fun things to do about these engines, especially when you take something that's not really running right and all of a sudden you've made it a lot better. Again, thanks for watching. Please give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below. It certainly helps a lot on the algorithm and helps YouTube push this content out to more people. I certainly do appreciate that. And if I can help you along the way, then we both did a favor for each other. So anyway, if you got any questions, leave them down below, and I guess we'll catch you guys on the next one. We'll see you.